Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amanda, will you call the roll?
Trustee Messick?
Here.
Trustee Rocco?
Here.
Trustee Sheehan?
Here.
Trustee Casera?
Here.
Trustee Fatino?
Here.
Trustee Lautner?
Here.
President DeCipio?
Here.
Quorum is present, sir.
Thank you, Amanda. First is public participation, and would anyone care to address the board? Please step up to the mic and give us your name and address, please. You're it, Fred.
Fred Weiss, 627. Fred Weiss, 627 North Brainerd. I want to make a few comments about the rain barrel program. And basically, I believe the village should have no official endorsement or involvement with the rain barrel program. I believe it is an ineffective means of reducing flooding problems. Should note that to fill the drum with fresh tap water costs about 60 cents. So the argument for some people that it saves money doesn't apply. Should also note that a quarter of an inch on an average roof will have a total runoff of about 205 gallons or 4 50-gallon drums. And the key to use of barrels for any impact on flood control is not to use them for water retention. Some people think or say, well, that's a great place to keep water for the dry season. Well, if you have the barrels filled with water for the dry spell, how will you use them for any stormwater retention? We have our rainfall in Grange Park averages about 39 inches a year. That's a lot. 1 inch will fill 16 barrels. Does they have no effect? I don't know any reason why the village should really get involved with them, unless you can produce, if you can produce a truly supportable, all the mathematical benefit of drums, I believe you should oppose them. The key to use of rain barrels for flood retention, and to hold water if you have 4 drums, to hold a quarter of an inch of rain, we don't have problems with quarter inches of rain. We have problems with the 3 inches to 6 inches of rain that we sometimes have. Rain barrels are only good for one-time retention of water. So I hope what I say makes sense. I hope you'll think about it some more. And I do encourage you to reject this plan for rain barrels. Some people have said, well, these are free. I'm sorry, nothing ever comes free. There's a cost somewhere. They might say, well, it only costs peanuts for the government to do it. Fine, but you can fill a freight barrel with peanuts, a freight car with peanuts. Little increments of cost are still something we need to consider. This is a new area of expense for our local governments, and I don't think in these financial times we should not be involved in new, unbeneficial, and unnecessary expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Okay, moving on. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Fatino.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item for discussion and action, and that's the first addendum to Maybass Master Agreement. General background is the Village of LaGrange Park Fire Department currently participates in the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System, Maybass. The system provides for a formal, organized process to bring in additional resources to help handle fires and other emergencies. In turn, our village fire department provides various types of resources to other communities and fire districts when fires or other emergencies occur outside of our village. although the concept of mutual aid had existed in the fire service in other forms for quite some time under other organizational names, the village became part of the MABAS system through the signing of an intergovernmental agreement in August of 1989. Since that time, the MABAS organization has grown substantially in both the size of the organization and also in terms of the resources available to members. MABAS can now be called upon to provide support and resources for fires, hazardous material incidents, specialized rescue incidents, and water rescue, and for many other needs that may arise during disasters or other emergencies. Overall, the system works very well for all involved, and in many cases prevents the duplication of specialized equipment and personnel, which may not be needed on a daily basis in any one particular community. Currently, when we receive or give mutual aid during an emergency, there is no formal mechanism for recouping or making whole to each department that provides resources. That was the original overall concept and spirit of MABAS, to help one another in times of need. That concept remains true today. There have been events more recently, though, over the last several years, in which members of MABAS have been deployed for quite a long time, substantially impacting some of the communities providing support as a member of MABAS. For instance, MABAS sent a task force from Illinois to assist with Hurricane Katrina. And there have been a number of incidents closer to home, such as tornadoes and floods, where many resources have been deployed for a day or more. In some cases of prolonged deployment, fire departments and other emergency services have been able to obtain reimbursement through federal aid or other reimbursement programs. MABAS, though, would like to address concerns about prolonged deployment and is looking for all of its members to modify the current IGA to help establish guidelines for recouping or making whole the communities who provide the MABAS mutual aid at events which are prolonged in nature, 8 hours or more. In essence, it would allow for an aiding unit to charge a stricken unit when prolonged aid is provided. Approving the addendum to the IGA would do just that, and in turn also clarify and satisfy eligibility requirements for such reimbursement noted in the FEMA Recovery Policy RP 9523.6. The discussion and action requested is the motion to authorize and direct the village president and village clerk to execute the first addendum to the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Master Agreement. And staff recommends approving the execution of the first addendum to the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Master Agreement.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Trustee Fatino?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would be in favor of doing this. I would see no reason why we would not want to be a part of a great organization that would not only help for in our community, but also for us to help in other communities, and it really seems like a no-brainer.
Thank you, Trustee Fatino. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a couple of questions, and while certainly conceptually it makes a lot of sense to do this, are there any issues that we should be aware of that would result from signing this? Is an area that I would have questioned. Also, are all the other villages, have we heard of any villages that have kind of dug in their heels and do not plan to participate in this, and where does all that stand?
Chief?
I am not aware of any villages that have said no, although I may not have heard of them. There may be some, but I'm not aware of any. It's been talked about at our Mavis Division 10, which is our local division, for months, where they've been encouraging us to sign this. So it's kind of the last minute I finally had time to bring it to you. Through those discussions at each meeting, I haven't heard anybody saying that they wouldn't. Everybody appeared to want to move forward. As far as any unanticipated concerns about signing the agreement, I believe if Mavis, the overall organization, has everyone participate or as close to possible, I think it only makes sense, and we'd probably be at a disadvantage if we didn't. Again, I can't say for sure that I've thought all the scenarios, but if they're going to distribute aid to various organizations based on you've signed the agreement, we want to be part of that if we participated. As the memo says, there's been some past situations where we did receive some reimbursement for participation in training that we didn't anticipate, or that they offered that they said they can get federal reimbursement for. Other organizations have received some aid through some major mutual aid deployments, but nothing under this current FEMA policy. And again, I think that's why they want us to sign it, to be in compliance with the FEMA policy.
And I know it's hard to predict, but do you see any issues with collection? I mean, once you start getting into, all right, well, it was 8 hours and 15 minutes, and then, well, we don't have the funds this month, or, you know, do you anticipate any issues along those lines?
I don't anticipate a problem, but you never know how federal aid's going to work. What I see happening is we would invoice as a group collaboratively through our MABUS division if the group, you know, issued assistance as a whole. They, you know, if it was an extreme amount of money that the stricken community had or communities had, they would probably not reimburse us until they received federal aid or state aid. So there could be a delay based on them not having the funds to immediately reimburse, but I think it would be equitable once they did get that. I don't understand all the intricacies, but like when a mutual aid, for instance, took place for Hurricane Katrina, there were several states, they put together bid packages before we actually send resources from our state. And the receiving state and the federal government, I think, is involved to some extent. They have to accept the one from the state that they want to take. So even though you hear about all these resources going, it's actually an organized effort. Within hours, they start to develop this contract, per se, and a policy. Here's what we're going to, you know, Illinois will send you aid for whatever the cost was, and they have to decide, are we going to take Illinois or Iowa or somebody else? So it's more formal than we would even think it is in that situation. So I think the reimbursement would take place in the same manner.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments from the board? Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Fatino?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Trustee Fatino. Okay, moving on, Public Works Committee, Trustee Messick.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item for discussion and action. The Public Works Department is seeking approval from the board to have an open purchase order with Central Salt LLC for the purchase of salt in the amount not to exceed $96,156 or 1,200 tons. Central Salt LLC was awarded the low bid through the state's joint purchasing program. This total represents the maximum amount of salt which can be purchased at the contract price of $80.13 a ton. The village is required to take a minimum purchase of 800 tons of salt, which would be at a total cost of $64,104. The department budgeted $60,000 in fiscal year 2014-15 budget. In order to purchase the minimum amount, Public Works will find $5,000 in savings from another part of their budget. Due to the relatively low price and the expectation that next year's salt bids will be even higher, it is recommended that the village secure the maximum amount of salt. There is $15,000 available as Public Works did not proceed with the crack sealing program when we received the bid amounts for the salt contract. The remainder of $16,156 would come from fund balance. Staff recommends the approval of the open purchase order not to exceed $96,156 with Central Salt LLC for the purchase of salt and recommends the use of $16,156 from fund balance. The motion is, there's a motion one to approve an open purchase order open purchase order with Central Salt LLC not to exceed a total amount of $96,156.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion, Trustee Messick.
It looks like it, you know, especially moving into next year, if the price is expected to go up, this sounds like, well, it's tight financially, but it always is with our budgets. This makes good sense. I guess I would have one question on when you say 16,000 from fund balance is, what does that, I mean, where is that coming from? What's it hurting? Or what's it coming away from?
If you recall from the audit, we have a fund balance in the general fund. It was about $4 million. I don't have it in front of me, but so 16,000 is a small amount. Of course, you don't want to have any overage in your budget, and we may not at the end of the year. We have had general fund surpluses in the past couple of years, so we may end the year with a budget that covers this. Depending on how things turn out, we may or may not have to do a budget amendment,
Okay, thank you.
but it's a relatively small amount.
But as such, I would be in favor of the first
Any other
one.
comments from the board? Trustee Rocco?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, on that same point, I apologize. I'm not understanding even any of that portion, how it's working. So it's 60. So we need 64,000. Correct. So we got 60,000 budgeted, and then we need another 5,000, which we're taking from somewhere. We got X surplus in Public Works.
Right, to buy the minimum is 64,000, and I rounded up, but we would be able to find 5,000.
Right, so it is around 70,000, and so that guarantees us that we can get the 1,200 tons, although all we're committing to right now is a 64,000, or 65,000.
That's 800 tons.
800 tons, right, correct. So we're getting 800 tons, but we've got that price locked in for 1,200 tons. I'm unclear on that paragraph in terms of what the point of the 15,000. Why is that paragraph here?
Because in the budget this year, we had a project that we were going to crack seal a certain amount of streets, and so we have those funds budgeted. The minute that I received the bid in August for the salt, I looked at the dollar amount of what the salt was, and knowing that we would probably need more than our minimum amount of salt, I stopped moving forward on bidding out that crack sealing to try to remain within our budget. So that's where otherwise we would have to be into the fund balance for $31,000. I just canceled the crack sealing, and it's one of those things that, it's kind of akin to caulking your windows. You don't do it every year. It's certainly a benefit to caulk it, but if you waited another season to caulk the window, the world will keep going by just fine.
Okay, I apologize. I don't want to waste time. I probably should have asked him. He's buying the maximum amount of salt, which is 64,000, right?
No,
That's the minimum.
the maximum is
Oh,
96,000.
you're buying the maximum.
Yes, trying to buy the maximum.
Okay, I thought you could buy the minimum now, but just hold off. You get the price guaranteed for the 1,200 tons at a later time. As long as you buy a minimum of 800 tons, then you lock in the rate for 1,200 tons, which you could buy at a later date.
All the way up until like the tail end of this season. So it'd still be in this fiscal year that we would buy it.
Okay, thank you. I apologize.
Not at all, Trustee
support
Rocco.
it.
Good questions. Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I think this price, I commend Director McLaughlin. This price is unbelievable, $80 a ton. Other villages in the city of Chicago, I think we heard that it's not out of the ordinary for them to be paying, $120, $130 a ton. So, I mean, you did your homework, and this is good. Thank you.
Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to clarify, if we end up having a light winter, we purchase the maximum, end up having a light winter, there's no issues with carryover, it would go into the next season, or potentially, if we were lucky, even to a couple of years. Is that true? I mean, what's the life expectancy, I guess, of the salt?
Salt does not go bad.
Okay,
Ever.
just to clarify,
So,
there's,
yeah, our challenge would be possibly storing it if we absolutely use like no salt this
Right.
year. Find the additional, we would find it a challenge to try to store it all, but I think we could still make that work.
do we have some inventory now?
Now we do.
Yeah.
2 months ago, we had a truckload.
Yeah.
We finished with an empty hopper at the end of last year.
Okay, so this is a restart or a
It's
fresh
nice,
start.
yeah, it's restocking our supply, and then we would, hopefully at the end of this year, we've got some salt on hand.
Yeah.
So frankly, we may not have to order quite as much next year.
Right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, so the motion is to approve an open purchase order with Central Salt not to exceed the total amount of $96,156. Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Fatino?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, one more.
Continue, Trustee Messick.
Thank you, Mr. President. And secondly, since we're talking about using the fund balance, We need a motion authorizing the use of $16,156 from fund balance.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, trustee Messick?
Largely, I believe it's pretty much been discussed, so I am very much in favor of this. Is just a mechanism. We may not even need to use it, as our finance director said, but it's a good safeguard.
Seeing no additional comments, Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Fatino?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, trustee Messick. Okay, moving on to other reports. Village manager, Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one item to report, and it is an agenda item, and it is positioned for board action for this evening. There is a memo that's included in the board packet regarding a grain barrel agreement with the MWRD. There was some discussion earlier or some comment, public comment regarding this item earlier in the meeting. The purpose of the agenda item is to authorize the village to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the MWRD for the distribution of free rain barrels to homeowners who disconnect their downspouts from the sewer system. As the board may recall, last year we were awarded an IGIG grant in the amount of $416,000 approximately from the IEPA, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, as part of the IGIG, or Illinois Green Infrastructure Grant Program. The purpose of the program is to fund efforts that implement best management practices to control storm water runoff for water quality protection. And that is primarily the reason why the rain barrel program from the MWRD dovetails so well with the IGIG grant program, because it really is a program that provides water protection, water quality, not flood protection. That's the purpose of this program. The IGIG grant agreement that we have in place is for a downspout disconnection assistance program. That is the program that is currently in development. It provides for incentives in the form of reimbursements for best management practices, to include downspout disconnections, gutter reroutes, rain barrels, rain gardens, or swales. Our application to the state for the IGIG grant did include a portion of the program to be allocated for a rain barrel component. In our work with the IEPA in developing the program, the state is requiring that the program, including consent forms, confirmation of work completed, and detailed tracking of best management practices that are undertaken as part of the program. Concurrent to the village's work in developing the program with the state, the MWRD announced a free rain barrel distribution program. Under the program, the MWRD provides free 55-gallon rain barrels to residents who have their downspouts currently connected to the combined sewer system. So similar to the village's program, residents will be required to disconnect from the combined sewer system in order to receive the incentive. The program includes free delivery to the home, an installation kit with directions, and maintenance information. I brought in a rain barrel this evening, and it's up front there. That's that blue drum over there. And includes the installation kit, the directions, as well as the barrel. And you can see that there's a sticker from the MWRD that's affixed to the front of the barrel. Residents are responsible for the actual installation. So residents who wish to participate in this program, they have to be connected to the sewer system. They have to agree to disconnect to install the rain barrel, and they have to utilize the rain barrel appropriately in order to participate. Rain barrels, the rain barrel you see tonight is in blue, but it does come in 4 colors: gray, black, blue, and terracotta. Included in the packet of information distributed to the board, there is an intergovernmental agreement that outlines the requirements of participation in MWRD's program. Most notably, as a participating municipality in the program, the village must verify and document that residents receiving rain barrels have downspouts connected to the system. The village must place all rain barrel orders on behalf of residents using a form provided by the MWRD. We have to obtain informed written consent for limited access to the property on behalf of the village as well as the state. And we have to make a site visit to verify proper installation of the rain barrel within 90 days of distributing, 90 days of distribution. We also have to annually report on the number of 90-day visits that we make to ensure proper installation. If approved, the village will forward the intergovernmental agreement to the state for integration into the overall program. The state has been very responsive to including this program with what was proposed in the grant application as well as the grant agreement. Program development continues in the next 2 months with program rollout anticipated in January or February, so very soon. The village recently hired a special project coordinator. His name is Forrest Tucker, and he has been working with staff in order to coordinate and assist in the finalization of the program. Immediate work includes the development of a database for program tracking, finalization of promotional materials, and a resident survey to be able to identify eligible homes for the program. As the board may recall, when we did our initial anonymous survey of a 12-block portion of the village back when we did the flood mitigation study back in 2011, the results of the survey identified that it is estimated that 40% of the homes have their downspouts disconnected into the combined sewer system. So we do see value in disconnection and the particulates that exist on the roof from the materials on the roof of homes in our community. And when the rainwater hits it and takes those materials, those toxic materials and particulates, and takes them down and takes them into the combined sewer, and which impacts potentially the waterways. And if there's a combined system overflow, then it impacts Salt Creek and the Des Plaines River, which is already an identified impaired waterway, or otherwise it gets treated at the MWRD. So there is an environmental concern here related to having the connection in place, and there is a benefit in terms of water quality to a program like this. So before you this evening is a motion to approve a resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the MWRD for the distribution of rain barrels.
Would this fall under Administration or Public Works Committee?
In the past, we've put it under the Engineering and Capital Projects Committee, and in more recent months, we've put it under the Village Manager's Report.
Okay, but I'm looking for a trustee to make the motion, and I want to get the appropriate.
Engineering and Capital Projects Committee
Okay.
would like.
Trustee Jim Kucera,
Trustee
would you please
Kucera.
make the motion?
I make a motion to approve the, I want to make sure I get the right wording here. Motion to approve a resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago for the distribution of rain barrels.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I know this is on the spot, but Trustee Kucera, would you care to comment?
Definitely, actually. More of, I guess, a comment and a couple of questions. One of the pieces I noticed is that the homeowners are responsible for installation, which makes sense. At the same time, we may have some elderly homeowners that may have problems with that or incur some costs. Do you know if it'd be possible for the, some of the IGIG money and the money that's being reimbursed for that to include help with installation in the rain barrels?
Well, that's something that we discussed today. Forrest and I had a meeting with our village engineer, Paul Flood, and we do think that there is a very real possibility that some of the folks in our community may need assistance, and we do plan on including that as part of the program and making ourselves available to residents that may need some type of assistance with installation. And that can come in a couple of ways. It could come through support from staff. We have a dedicated staff person that assists with the program. We have also discussed a specialized help program for the downspout disconnection program. So we already have a help list of volunteers where we identify volunteers in the community that are willing to help with various odd jobs for residents in our community. So we may expand that program a bit, or otherwise we can provide that assistance. But we do anticipate that this program will become, very labor intense as it gets rolling. And to the extent that we can provide that assistance, we can certainly we'll try and pair up volunteers with residents whenever we can. We're looking to do outreach as well as workshops so that we can start to put a list together of volunteers that might be willing to assist as well. But we're certainly willing to be able to do that. We just have to figure out how we can make ourselves available in that particular instance.
Okay, and one other piece, and from talking to people myself, it seems like a lot of residents are looking for rain barrels for various reasons, environmental reasons as well as water runoff and things like that. So from that perspective, I feel like a lot of residents would be very happy to see this, because I'm thinking of doing this next spring. It's going to cost me $150 with this program. In addition to getting help with gutter disconnect, I can get a free rain barrel. Is that a fair?
Correct. Not only that, I did talk with the program manager at the MWRD, the person that's in charge of the program, and I did discuss with her the potential for not just one rain barrel at a downspout, but the potential of one additional at a downspout, or multiple rain barrels at a property. For instance, if there's, more than one downspout that's connected into the combined sewer, can they have a rain barrel for each downspout? And she said absolutely. So there's a rain barrel for each downspout. And she said that she was also open to multiple rain barrels at one downspout, daisy chaining the rain barrels together for greater storage. More intricate system, but she said she was absolutely open to that possibility.
Ms. Keating?
Just to clarify, though, Julia, if you don't have downspouts that are currently connected to the combined sewer system, you're not eligible for the free rain barrel.
That's correct. At this time, you have to have a combined, or you have to have a downspout that is currently connected to the combined sewer system to be eligible. For now, they have 15,000 rain barrels to distribute as part of this program. That may change in the future. They will be sure to let us know if they are going to expand eligibility for folks who are already disconnected from the combined sewer system, but that is correct.
Trustee Kucera?
Thank you. Answered the questions, but then basically just to make sure and understanding, and I guess I have one gutter that's disconnected. I'm sorry. The others are still connected. Would I be eligible for this program? Because I know a lot of our neighbors are in that same situation.
It's on a per downspout connection process.
Okay, but folks that recently moved into the village that had to disconnect at this time, they would not be eligible.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Rocco?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had a couple questions regarding the agreement, and it looks like the only thing is that if we just have to return the rain barrels if they're not used, our responsibility is to return the rain barrels, and if we don't, I imagine that the remedies, they can come after us for the cost of the rain barrel.
That was Attorney Keating's question as well when she reviewed the agreement, and we did reach out to the MWRD, and they would not, they indicated to us that they would not require that we pay back the cost of the rain barrel. They would use that information to reevaluate the effectiveness of the program, but they would not, penalize the village
We just
for
may
that
not get any
cost.
more.
Well, they do say that we have to make sure that we collect them if they're not utilized property, but we wouldn't be penalized or charged for that cost.
Okay. And then another thing too is it talks about the permits, federal, state, and county requirements. Are there permits requirements that by the federal, state, or county level that we would be responsible for? Or even if we would, is that something that we would have an agreement with the residents that if there are permits required, that it would be the residents?
To my knowledge, there are no requirements,
I
any permit requirements for a rain barrel installation, even with our program, which will require some permits as part of the downspout disconnection assistance program. We would not require it for a simple disconnection and connection to a rain barrel. But we will be looking at the downspout before installation as well as confirming installation afterwards, but not requiring a permit.
Okay. Would it be, I guess it's a question for Trustee Keating, or Attorney Keating, would it be something that we want to, like, in case of the event that there are requirements out there that we would want to make sure that when we roll out this program, that the residents, if permits are required, they'd be responsible for them, or is it something that we could check in advance?
Well-
We don't need to worry about it anyway. I'm just wondering why they have that
I think,
paragraph in
I
there.
think it's just boilerplate, and as always, this intergovernmental agreement is really a non-negotiable agreement. If we want the rain barrels, we're gonna sign the agreement. I think that the real permit issue has to do with the village permit for a downspout disconnection. And as part of our rollout of this whole disconnection project, we are going to make it very clear to the residents exactly what permits are required and what they have to do to qualify to disconnect the downspouts.
Okay, so we'll take the responsibility of figuring out whether there are going to be any other
Correct.
permits or fees
Correct.
on the county, federal, state level. Then, and then in terms of the indemnification, which, I mean, I agree with, I understand we can't make any changes. I just want to make sure we understand what we're getting into. In terms of the indemnification, so we indemnify them for any damage or, claims or anything in relation to the rain barrels. Is that something that, A, we should be, do we need approval from our insurance carrier? B, do we want to make sure that we have a waiver of liability from the residents? Because in case of any, claims or issues or damage.
I think that's something we can check with Irma.
I'm wondering,
I think it's a fairly narrow universe of things that could happen.
correct, but if there's overflow of water, I don't know, what I mean, if say the rain barrel all of a sudden caused flooding in the window of somebody's house, I'm just,
Well, but the point is that the residents are ordering the rain barrels. I think as part of our rollout of this project, we'll make it clear to the residents that we're not assuming any liability for their use of the free rain barrel that the county provides.
that's what I'd like to hear. Okay, exactly, okay.
We can certainly run this language through Irma, Dan Letourneau at Irma, and he can take a look and indicate whether or not we need follow-up as part of that. We can do that tomorrow.
And then also, if we have the responsibility going ultimately, as Attorney Keating said, on to the landowner, then that kind of frees us. And I appreciate the comments that were made by Mr. Weiss prior to in the public comment. It does look though on the from the rain barrels. One, Julia mentioned something earlier, which is they can put multiple rain barrels for each downspout so that all the rain runoff from the gutter, from the roof could be dispersed. Another thing too is when I'm looking at this, it has to be on a stand where then you could have the runoff go in just to the backyard or some sort, so it is keeping the water. Oh, there's a way that it's gonna extra runoff that it's gonna keep the water out of the sewer, the combined sewer, because of the fact that they've got the hose lined up where when it does overflow, there's a place for it to go.
Sure. I mean, there's ways of integrating a rain barrel or multiple rain barrels, meaning rain barrel systems, into a much more sophisticated system in your backyard, such as you have a hose that leads out of the rain barrel that goes to a soaker hose, and the soaker hose continuously waters your shrubs or
You put a hose with some holes in it that continuously waters a garden, for instance. You can design, your own, ecosystem in your backyard, and rain barrels can be a part of that. It just depends on how sophisticated you want to make them.
Now, I guess the final point is, now the stands, I see that the stands, because in order for this really to work, it does need to be put on a stand for the gravity, right? They don't provide that, say, the homeowner has to figure out the stand. I see this smart idea, the cement blocks, but that stand they got there in the picture, that's not provided.
That's correct.
Do they make stands?
In order for the water to come out of the rain barrel, it needs the gravity in order for it to flow outward. So, they suggest that, you place it on, what are those bricks called?
The cement.
The cinder blocks. They recommend putting it on cinder blocks. It does not come with a stand. I believe that the MWRD does offer a line of, the company that supplies the barrels does provide for a list of other products that residents can order in order to optimize the utilization of their barrels.
That's great. That's great, because more people, like you said, when they want to create their own ecosystem, they, the different products maybe in the rollout to offer, or at least let them know of that. That's it. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. Trustee Messick?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple questions. First of all, to address one of Mr. Weiss's concerns, is there any, the peanuts and the freight car, is there any cost associated to us at all? I mean, is there staff time, reporting? I know we're talking, we have to inspect to make sure they're being utilized properly. Follow up, is there any kind of estimate of staff time that would be involved in that?
I don't have an exact estimate of the staff time that would be required as part of the requirements for this program. But I can tell you that many of the requirements that are included in this program for the rain barrel are also required of the iGig grant. So some of the things that we would be doing anyway as part of the downspout disconnection program we'll be doing for this. In fact, there are going to be some cases where there will be efficiencies realized. Number one, by including the rain barrel program, it's one way that we can get the word out and make the program more visible so that we can ensure greater participation. So that, I think, is one way. We'll get some additional folks involved that otherwise would not have. And if we would have provided our own rain barrels, we would have had to have, either delivered it ourselves, or they would have had to come down to Village Hall and we'd have to store them, and that wouldn't be good. Another efficiency is that we are going to have to audit compliance of the disconnection as part of the iGig grant anyway, by going out to the home and ensuring that the installation is proper within that 90-day period. We will be able to mark on our database that these houses are in compliance and they have been checked. So there are some efficiencies to be realized by integrating the program.
Thank you. Yeah, and you brought up one point, because I'm doing the pro and con here, that I would feel that by offering the rain barrels, you will bring some attention to the disconnect program. So that's a good point. Another question: does this? I mean, if we don't approve it, does it affect the iGig in any way? Or
well, we have $20,000 of the grant is set aside for specialized BMPs, best management practices, which include primarily two elements. One is incentives for rain gardens, and the second is incentives for rain barrels. So by utilizing the MWRD's program and having that agency fund this portion of the program, whatever portion of that $20,000 that would have gone to the rain barrels for residents that wanted it can now be otherwise, transitioned over to other components of the grant.
All right, thank you. And one last thing is, I know we we talked about some of it. Is there an estimate on how many downspouts out there are still connected to the combined sewer system?
We don't have an estimate of how many downspouts are still connected to the system. We think somewhere between 1,700 to 1,800 homes may be still connected, but how many of those homes have actual downspouts that are connected, we don't know for certain.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Messick. Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Trustee Messick answered the questions that I had regarding the impact on the staff.
Trustee Sheehan?
Everything's been answered, Mr. President. Thank you.
Trustee Patino?
No, I would just, the questions I had were asked by Trustee Messick, so thank you.
Okay, I have one question, and Julia, we talked about this. What about the coverage of the portal?
I thought it was an interesting question that President DeCipio posed to me earlier this evening. He said, okay, so they're going to disconnect the downspout and connect it to the rain barrel. How are they going to cap the connection to the combined sewer?
Oh, there are a number of ways that can be done. You can, prior practices in a lot of folks. Fundamentally, wad up newspaper, put it in the top of the vitrified clay pipe, and put a small cap, concrete cap over it, a saccharine cap or something. There are other more exotic products that are made. You can buy plugs that are manufactured specifically for that purpose, put it in there. They have a rubber expansion joint on it. There are, depending on if you've got a PVC plastic riser section where it goes underground, they also manufacture plugs that can be glued in place or have a mechanical fit to that. So there are a number of ways to do that.
So I assume it will have to be covered, and will that be at the expense of the homeowner?
It needs to be covered, and I think I'll let Julia speak about that.
Well, our program is a reimbursement program. I think that I don't think it would be efficient to have residents be able to apply for a reimbursement for the capping of that. I think it would cost far more staff time and administrative work than, just to reimburse such a small cost. But we could look at, options for providing caps. Caps are relatively very low cost, which could be included as part of the program. We could look at the cost for that. Certainly, any cap that we purchase and we provide to the resident as part of this program would be eligible for reimbursement under the program, and we know that. We have that confirmation from the state. Now, whether or not we can fit it into the design of the program as it is currently written, I just don't know, but we could look at that.
And Mr. Flood, are they all universal?
Mostly. They're mostly 4-inch vitrified clay.
Okay.
Pipes or 4-inch PVC plastic risers. There are probably some installations in the village where people over time have come up with their own unique methods. But, those can work fairly easily.
Okay.
As well. Just a cap, mechanical cap.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes. Trustee Patino?
Thank you, Mr. President. Seeing that, this is a new rollout from the MWRD, do we know any other communities that are already doing something like this? And maybe what some of their challenges are or anything like that?
As far as I am aware, we will be the second community to roll out this program, with the first being Blue Island.
Okay.
There have been about 150 rain barrels that have been distributed as part of this program, and the MWRD has 15,000 available to get rid of by 2019.
We've talked about rain gardens, we've talked about retention ponds, we've talked about rain barrels, all being part of little pieces that could help provide better quality water and provide it to our landscape so it doesn't go into the river and into the streets and things like that. So this has been an ongoing discussion. This is just another option that we have to provide free rain barrels to our residents, correct? Okay, Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Fatino?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Trustee Casera and Julia. Anything else, Julia?
Nothing further to report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Village Clerk?
No report, Mr. President.
Okay, I have just a couple things. Obviously, everybody knows Nazareth won the 2014 IHSA Football Championship. I attended a rally for them. I want to thank our chiefs for providing assistance on the departure and arrival of the team. It was phenomenal. I heard nothing but great things from President Moran and Coach Radke, that they were forever indebted to the village for the quality of care that they received. So I want to thank, on behalf of the board, Chief Rampa and Chief Magus for all the hard work that you guys did in providing this to them. Also, I talked with Julia, and we'd like to, if it's okay with the board, to provide entryway signs to our community, establishing, Village of LaGrange Park, home of 2014 football champions Nazareth Academy, something to that effect. I've seen it done in other communities. I think it would be a good gesture in the community to do that, if it's in agreement with the board. We attended Roy Kripe's retirement dinner last night. Julie, Emily, myself, Chief, Magus, Brendan was there, and if I'm missing anybody, but Roy will be retiring at the end of the year. He's been a great asset to our community as executive director of the Park District, and we will miss him greatly, I think. And he's developed a relationship, I know, with Emily and Julia and Brendan and all those who are involved with the Park District. So the tree lighting ceremony was a great success. Emily, you did a bang-up job again, well attended. The tree was beautiful. Everybody had a great time. We did a Plymouth Place talk on Friday about the State of the Village address. Trustee Lautner was there with Emily, myself, and Julia, the residents. I think maybe just a quarter of them fell asleep, but most of them were listening. And there were some great comments provided, but it was a great experience for all of us. Just one other thing, are we missing a mic for our attorney? Where's the mic?
If there is one, it was completely unintentional.
We shared. We're okay. That's all that I have, but I want to wish on behalf of the board, the community, the administrative staff, the board, everyone, a happy holiday season. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year with health and happiness and enjoyment with your families. Anyone on the board want to wish anybody birthday, Christmas, New Year's?
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Okay, any new business? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.